Welcome to Snipes and Insights, a PuckPedia daily NHL playoff preview show. I'm your host, Keith Kavanaugh, alongside Tyler Madarasz. And Tyler, did we get some incredible games last night?
Yeah, we really did, Keith. A couple overtime thrillers. You had Kyle Connor score another game winner. That guy is just unbelievable. And obviously, Los Angeles and Edmonton. Still trying to wrap my head around that game, even though it happened and wrapped up late last night. That was just a crazy third period at Crypto.com Arena.
100%. I think all four games were absolutely incredible. And we actually predicted that there'd be two overtime games. And then you took it one step further and you predicted that the Avalanche Stars would go to overtime. But first, our producer, Seth, let's get the Ovechkin goal on the screen here. I mean, it's this guy's first time he's scored an overtime winner in the playoffs. Crazy. But I mean, he's right there. Johnny on the spot. What'd you make of this one, Tyler?
Well, yeah, he already had a goal in the game, and we've been waiting, Keith, for his whole career to score an overtime winner in the postseason. So great play by Anthony Beauvillier, who had also had a big game playing on that top line with Ovi and Strome, but just a great pass from Beauvillier and a solid finish from Ovechkin. Got to love the celebration as well, and Ovi's on the board as an OT playoff hero.
And then in the second game, the Stars and the Avalanche, a great back and forth battle. And we had the guy everyone expected to score the game winner, Colin Blackwell, in overtime, put it away for the Dallas Stars. What do you think of this one?
Well, Colin Blackwell, healthy scratch in game one, Keith. He gets inserted into the lineup, the youngster Maverick Bourque not in, and it's just a nice play. It's a bit of a drive-by by Miles Wood as well, and Keith, I guess we'll talk about it a little. Like, we all saw Miles Wood on the ice in warm-up. We also all saw the captain, Gabriel Landeskog, in warm-up. We both thought he was playing. Everyone thought he was playing. So the guy that gets inserted for him in Miles Wood, not a great night. He was -3, and just a drive-by on that play and a great finish from a fourth-line player like Colin Blackwell.
Yep, and I'm sure we'll talk more about Gabriel Landeskog and Miles Wood tomorrow in our Snipes and Insights episode for the next Avalanche Stars game. So I think let's just dive right into the games tonight. So the first one on the docket, we are finally getting game one in the Battle of Florida. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Florida Panthers. Tampa Bay is -121 on the money line. The Florida Panthers are +103. The over-under is 5.5. If we're looking up the lineups tonight, so I think a couple things stick out to me right away. With the Lightning, it looks like they're going to split up Jake Gensel from Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov, kind of give their top two lines a little bit of balance, let Yanni Gord slide in as left wing number one. And they're also rolling 11 and 7, so they're playing 7 defensemen as Radish plugs in there as the 7th defenseman. And then on the Florida side of things, I think it's interesting. So Matthew Tkachuk, as Paul Maurice said, is a game-time decision. We'll see if he plays. Right now, it looks like he'll be slotted on line two with Sam Bennett and Sam Miskevich. But I'm interested for this one for a lot of different reasons. Tyler, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I'm pumped up. The Battle of Florida last year kind of disappointed. The years previous were great, and we kind of hope we get that. But when you look at the Tampa Bay side of things, John Cooper, maybe for the last 15, 20 games of the regular season, almost every single one, he was kind of going with 11 forward, 7D. I talk about it a lot on SiriusXM NHL Network Radio on our show. It works for Tampa. It doesn't work for a lot of other teams like St. Louis last night, who lost when they went 11 and 7, but gives more ice time to Kucherov, Point, Gensel, the big time players. We mentioned in our preview that Oliver Bjorkstrand's missing the entire first round. So there's another player that could maybe be a big time goal scorer for Tampa, but I think they'll be just fine. And when you look at Matthew Tkachuk and the Florida Panthers, we all just hope he takes warm up, is feeling okay. We haven't seen him play a hockey game since the Four Nations face-off. So this is going to be a battle. We all hope it goes 7. And hopefully, Keith, in the first period, we get a little fireworks here and there.
100%. And if there's one guy I have my eyes on in this series, it's Seth Jones. He was traded from the Chicago Blackhawks to the Florida Panthers. There was some salary retention on that deal. And basically, he's paired up on that top line with Gustav Forsling tonight, with Aaron Ekblad suspended for the first 2 games of the series, eligible to return in Game 3. They played 184 minutes at 5-on-5 together in the regular season, and they basically are getting the toughest matchups each game because they're the de facto shutdown team. And they've controlled 48% of the expected goals rate. So they're basically only slightly getting outplayed in the toughest minutes on the ice, which would be a good sign for Florida if they hovered around that 48-50% mark in this game. So we'll kind of see how that plays out.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about Darnell Nurse in our preview of the games yesterday. Seth Jones, kind of reminiscent at times where he's a big-time contract. I still love the acquisition by Bill Zito and the Florida Panthers, but at times can kind of get exposed in his own zone. So we'll see how Seth Jones does in what could be a really, really, really physical series. And without Aaron Ekblad for the first couple games, like, Seth Jones is the guy. He has to be the guy that Paul Maurice can rely on to play big, heavy minutes, kind of like Essa Lindell and Thomas Harley, who played big-time minutes for the Dallas Stars last night. So I like that pairing a lot, and they're going to play a ton of minutes for Paul Maurice.
Yeah, I'm excited that we finally get the Battle of Florida. It's crazy that this game is game 1 on the Tuesday. It seems like that hasn't really happened in the NHL. It seemed like, the first 2 days of the playoffs, all the games were through game 1. So interested to finally get this one kicked off. I don't know if it's scheduling or arena availability, which could be the issue there, but no better or worse. We're getting game 1 tonight. I think let's go right into the next game. So finally, the other 3 games tonight have already had their game 1s. So we're going to start with the Carolina Hurricanes and the New Jersey Devils. If we're looking at our friends at CoolBet, stay cool, bet responsibly. They're hooking us up with all the betting lines for these playoff series. Carolina's minus 270 favorite on the money line tonight. The Devils are plus 220. The over-under is set at 5.5. And boy, this first game was very, very interesting for a lot of different reasons. Carolina absolutely dominated. They were up 38-13 in shots on goal through the first 2 periods of the game. The Devils had a lot of injuries. Seth will show in a minute just the video of a couple of the guys going down. But it looks like in this game, there's going to be no Brendan Dillon for the Devils, no Luke Hughes. Cody Glass, who was injured during the game, he'll be in the lineup. It looks like the Devils are also going to split up Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt for a couple reasons. I think that with Carolina being able to match up at home ice, I think it's best that you take your 2 best forwards and split them on the 2 different lines so that Carolina has to make a choice of which line they'd want to shut down, and then hopefully you're able to win some of the minutes in that other line. But another silver lining in game 1 was that the expected goals battle was closer than you would imagine, and the Devils, through all that domination, still technically had a chance towards the end of the game when they were down 3-1. Timo Meier had a shot at it. It was like 55-45% on the expected goal battle. So I think all things considered, the Devils, say a prayer for them tonight. I think they're going to need it.
Yeah, I think they will as well. And let's give credit to Freddie Anderson. He was spectacular in the game. Like the one paddle save that he made was great and just kept the Carolina Hurricanes in it when they kind of dominated shots from what we saw watching the game. But I think the thing that sticks out to me, other than the 2D missing, like Luke Hughes missing a game, that is rough. They're already without his brother Jack, who's their best player. And then Luke coming back into that game was probably dealing with that injury, just kind of trying to push through and try to get the Devils to win. But man, Luke Hughes missing is very, very tough. But Tomas Tatar on the 4th line, Keith, like a veteran, he's been there, done that in the postseason. I don't mind inserting him for a guy like Daniel Sprong, who is pretty one-dimensional. We saw him kind of lose a puck here and there in that first game. So I kind of like Tatar for Sprong, a pretty underrated move, I think, by Sheldon Keefe. And when you have veterans like that at your disposal, I like using them after a loss.
And Seth, if we can get that clip going for the injuries in the first game. And I know Jacob Markstrom was probably frustrated because he had to face a million shots. But if you look here, Luke Hughes goes down. And then in the same sequence of events, Markstrom tries to give a whack to Andrei Svechnikov, accidentally totally gets Cody Glass. It looks like he got a little toe pick there, so no one really knows what the injury was. You know how the teams are very hum-hum during the playoffs in terms of disclosing injuries, but just a brutal turn of a sequence of events for the Devils, and just summed up game 1 perfectly. But to your point, Jacob Markstrom was absolutely incredible, I thought. The question marks going in was which Jacob Markstrom's going to show up. Is he going to be able to kind of be the guy to win some games? And after that game, there was kind of no doubt in my mind that he could definitely win games if the team is able to get some offense in front of him.
Yeah. Like Jacob Markstrom is the X factor of this series. He could be the best player. And if he is, the Devils could end up upsetting the Carolina Hurricanes. And just going back to the clip we saw there, we've seen it a few times since then. But like, good thing Cody Glass isn't made out of glass like some other players who are pretty injury prone. Like, that could have been devastating for him, whether you take a slash to the wrist or you kind of land on your ankle or your knee wrong. Thankfully, he is playing, and Jacob Markstrom probably felt terrible after that game, but good thing Cody Glass is okay. And quickly on the other side with the Carolina Hurricanes, thought they were great. We saw Logan Stankoven play some really good hockey. We saw Taylor Hall pick up a couple of assists. Will be interesting to see tonight if a guy like Sebastian Aho or Seth Jarvis maybe takes that step and tries to take over a game where the Devils can go down 0-2 and the Carolina Hurricanes can take a pretty big lead in this series.
And just a note for this game, this one's an early one tonight. It's a 6 p.m. start time, so it starts in about an hour and a half. So if you weren't aware, get your TVs ready. We got a long night of playoffs to go. Let's keep it moving. Let's get to this third game of the night, and that's going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. Our friends at CoolBet have the line as the Toronto Maple Leafs are minus 159 favorites on the money line. The Ottawa Senators are plus 135. The over-under is set at 5.5. Nothing too crazy, I think, from the Toronto side of things. I think that's kind of the lineup you'd expect. I'm pretty sure they're running it back with the same people from game one. Anthony Stolarz was missed practice yesterday due to rest. He was on the ice tonight, so it looks like he'll be good to go for game two. And then on the flip side for the Ottawa Senators, I think that I saw that Travis Hamonic might end up coming back into the lineup and play on that second D pairing with Thomas Chabot. And then also I saw that maybe they want to insert Nick Cousins into the lineup, but we'll see kind of how those lineup changes play out. But, man, this was a game where the Toronto Maple Leafs in game one dominated on the power play, like we mentioned in a couple shows ago. They were 3 for 6, and all 3 goals were within 10 seconds of the power play starting. What really caught your eye in this one, Tyler?
Well, just the Toronto Maple Leafs clicking so early on all those power plays. They went 3 for 6. They were 50%, and their big boys were just getting it done. From Mitch Marner on a breakaway to William Nylander on that 5-on-3 to John Tavares.
Yeah, look at this one right here.
Like the pass by Austin Matthews on this goal, Keith, was a thing of beauty. Just to glove it down and quickly spring Marner. Obviously goes bar down on Linus Ullmark. Beautiful finish by Mitch there. And the Toronto Maple Leafs just looked like how they looked in the regular season when they were dominating games. And to your points about the Ottawa Senators, we'll see if Travis Hamonic plays. I don't mind. I just talked about inserting Tatar if you're Sheldon Keefe as a veteran player. Hamonic's that perfect veteran that could be your 7th guy. You can insert him maybe after a loss, and we'll see if he does that. Warm-up tonight's at 7 o'clock with the 7:30 start here in Toronto. And Nick Cousins, I would have played him in game one. That's just me, but obviously Travis Green didn't want to go with Nick Cousins. They already have a Cousins in the lineup, so maybe it's just too many Cousins, even though they're spelled differently. But we got to see the big players on Ottawa do some things. Like, I like that Tim Stützle was kind of throwing the body here and there. I think he finished the game with like 8 hits, but like Tim Stützle, maybe start dominating. Drake Batherson was their best player. Hopefully he can do that again. And Brady Tkachuk missed that breakaway as well. That would have been a huge point to the game if Brady Tkachuk couldn't have finished that. So we'll see if the big guys in Ottawa do it. And they obviously got to stay out of the box. I think they'll be more, they'll be out of the box for sure tonight, or else Travis Green might blow a gasket after the game.
Yeah, discipline's going to be a big key in this one, especially when Toronto's power play was humming at the rate it did in game one. I think for Ottawa, too, like even though they were outscored 6-2 in the game didn't seem all that unbalanced. Like they were in the game. They were getting chances. I didn't think that they were out of it completely. And I think tonight is just a big one. Do you want to go down 0-2 heading back home? Or are you going to really put the effort forward to get that 1-1 split at home? Like you mentioned, I think Brady Tkachuk has to show up. Claude Giroux, longtime captain of the Philadelphia Flyers. I think he's a guy who can lean on his veteran leadership a little bit, knows how to get a big goal in a playoff series. So we'll see what kind of game he has tonight. And then Jake Sanderson on the back end, one of the best defensemen in the NHL. He's their number one guy. He has to play the part. If they get some power play opportunities, he's got to lead the way with him and Thomas Chabot kind of leading the 2 power play units and quarterbacking. So I think there's a lot that can happen in this game, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I just want to see the Sens get back in. And obviously, if they're down 2-0 heading home, it's not over. I'm going to game 4. So selfishly, I don't want to see a 3-0 scoreline for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But the Senators got to get back in it, whether they're down 2-0 heading home or it's 1-1. It's a massive game for that team. And maybe they could beat Stolarz a couple times, get him moving. We saw him get crashed into in the game by Ridley Gregg as well. And we were thinking, like, did he tweak his knee? He had knee surgery earlier this year. So maybe just get to the net and create a lot of traffic in front of Stolarz could lead to a couple goals if you're Ottawa tonight.
Yep. And then we have one more game on the docket for tonight, and it's an 11 p.m. Eastern start time, which is literally insane. I don't know how I'm going to be able to stay up for this one tonight. But we have the Vegas Golden Knights and the Minnesota Wild. I think a lot of that had to do, by the way, with the ESPN wanting to do a triple header, which is why that the Devils game is starting at 6 so that they could fit in all 3 games tonight. But we'll see how it plays out. I know a lot of people are going to be sleeping by the time this one's over. It's probably going to end around 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. Tough for a Tuesday. But anyways, so if we go to the lineups, we have Vegas. They're a heavy favorite again tonight. They're minus 227 on the money line. The Minnesota Wild are plus 190. Over-under is set at 5.5. This is another game where it was pretty evenly split. Minnesota actually won the expected goals battle at 5-on-5 with a 52% expected goal share compared to Vegas's 48%. We'll see if Minnesota makes any lineup changes tonight. Maybe Hinostroza or Shore come in the forward group. Sounds like they're sticking with with Boyum though, however, which I think makes a lot of sense. Like it wasn't like they're putting him on third line minutes. They're sheltering him with Bogosian. And then obviously he has the offensive upside. It's tough to come into these, making your NHL debut in the playoffs. Although Cale Makar seamlessly did it a few years ago, but he's a special player, obviously. What caught your eye in this one, and what are you looking forward to in tonight's game?
I'm looking forward to a lot. Obviously, not the start time, as you mentioned. Like this game might end between 1:30 and 2 a.m. I I got a 5 a.m. alarm tomorrow morning. Let's like, come on, like ESPN, what's going on here? But I think we all like staying up for playoff hockey. And if this game goes to overtime, that's just going to be a crazy Tuesday night around the NHL. But I'm looking for the Vegas Golden Knights to kind of just do what they did in game one. Like they got a couple goals from Brett Howden. We talked about the one that either went in with 0.1 or 0.0 seconds on the clock. But regardless, his goal against Philip Gustafsson just kept showing that he's a great player and a great depth piece for Bruce Cassidy. Like 20 plus goals this year. We never really thought that he would do that in his time in Tampa or in New York. So I like that Brett Howden kind of showed up. Jack Eichel was great. They're finally a healthy team. And when we're looking at the lines here, these four lines are incredible. Tanner Pearson, who I thought played great since coming over, can't even find a spot in the top 12 forwards. So just love how stacked Vegas is. The blue line, we don't even have to talk about it because all six guys are studs. And
Can we go to the Vegas line a second? I just want to point out something.
Yeah.
So Brandon Saad, Tomas Hertl, Pavel Dorofeev. A second line that, Saad came over and like he was cut by the Blues, released, and then signed by Vegas on the cheap. If you look at game one, they had 11 5v5 minutes. They had a 94.7 expected goal rates. They were 1-0 in the goal scored battle and 19-5 in their shot attempts. They dominated the ice in their game one.
Yeah, Dorofeev's fun to watch, isn't he? Like, are we all of a sudden going to see Pavel Dorofeev score 30 goals every single season? But almost the perfect line mates for him with Brandon Saad, who likes possessing the puck and kind of get it on the forecheck, and Tomas Hertl, who's just been a stud center for so long. So maybe that line keeps doing that tonight. That's a scary thought if you're John Hines in the Minnesota Wild. But I like what you said about Vinny Hinostroza. We still don't know if he's going to play tonight, but like that's one of the waiver claims of the year. All of a sudden he comes over to Minnesota and he's like scoring every second or third game. And right now we can't find a spot in the lineup. So we'll see what happens. Justin Brazeau is a big body that I think maybe you can kind of shift out for a player like Vinny Hinostroza, but it's the top six players that got to get it going. Joel Eriksson, who came back, had a 4-goal game. Kirill Kaprizov, who came back, had an OT winner and 2 goals in that same hockey game. Those are their best players, including Matt Boldy, who scored a couple in game one, but that top line's got to dominate if they want to send this 1-1 back to Minnesota.
And to your point, too, that top line of Kaprizov, Eriksson, Ek, and Boldy, I just want to point out what they did in game one because it was actually pretty special stuff. So they played 17-plus minutes at 5-on-5 in game one, which is more than double any other line on the Minnesota Wild. And they did well in those minutes. They had a 69% expected goal share, and they had a lead in shot attempts 27-20. So that line, in terms of, they basically played an entire period at 5-on-5, and they won their minutes pretty respectively. So I think will Minnesota be able to lean on their top line that much throughout the entirety of the playoffs? I don't know. You're going to wear guys out like that. But at the same time, Minnesota is a little top heavy at this point. They do have guys like Marco Rossi on the second line. Ryan Hartman was the first line center for a while last season, and he's now relegated to the fourth line. Like, I think he might have to step his game up a little bit. And then to your point, Brazeau, he seemed like a great addition for the Minnesota Wild at the trade deadline. And then it just doesn't really feel like they've been able to fit that puzzle piece into their lineup. I think he's the right piece on a different team maybe, but for right now, they can't figure out how to use him properly. So we'll see how all that plays out. But regardless, Minnesota is not going to want to go down 0-2 to Vegas heading back home in the next game.
No, definitely not. So we'll see which top line kind of dominates. Is it Jack Eichel's line? Is it Joel Eriksson X line? Like the battle of those top lines in the series is what we're tuning in for, and we're just hoping that there's no overtime for us on the East Coast.
Well, that's all we got here for Snipes and Insights. Those are the 4 games tonight. I'm excited. The first game kicks off in about an hour and a half with the Carolina Hurricanes and the New Jersey Devils. If you're bold enough to stay up late tonight, let us know. Also, we want to thank CoolBet. Stay cool, bet responsibly. Go to puckpedia.com/coolbet for all your betting needs. That they'll have offers for you ready to go. We're excited. And that's the show today. Let's watch some hockey and then tune in again tomorrow around same time. And we'll be giving you the preview for those games.